free will.
only 196 days left until America votes. From coast to coast, from border to border, from sea to shining sea, Sean Hannity is on. Final news roundup and information overload.
Right, news roundup, information overload hour, toll free hour. Number, answer your calls, 800-941 Sean if you want to be a part of the program. On Truth Social, President Trump put out, the Palestinian protests at Columbia University have closed the college down, but the area surrounding the courthouse in downtown Manhattan is closed up like a drum, with New York City's finest, meaning the police, all over the place. Why not send some to Columbia to protect the Jewish students that are being warned by a Columbia rabbi to stay away because it's not a safe environment for them? And he said anyway, the university would then not have to shut it down. Republicans want the right to protest anywhere in America, but it's got to be peaceful, and it's got to be, they have certain rules and regulations that go along with it. Anyway, we had a lot going on in court today, not the least of which was Letitia James was challenging the idea of Donald Trump's $175 million judgment bond. It will, in fact, stand. Maybe one of the oddest moments that I ever heard of from somebody I knew in the courtroom told me that, I think it was Judge Goron again, literally saying, well, how do we know if the $175 million is going to be guaranteed? The money's in cash, sir. Well, what if the money, what if the money loses value? It's in cash, sir. And then, ask the question 2 or 3 times. Anyway, Eric Trump is with us with the Trump Organization. That was a big win for your side today, but did it happen in the way I described it?
Sean, this is exactly the nonsense we've been dealing with for the last 3 years with this judge. The judge didn't know what a money market account was. This is a person that ruled against my father in the neighborhood of $560 million. And the guy didn't know what a money market account was. That's how kind of unsophisticated he was. We had to put a $175 million bond. We posted it in cash. That the folks sent my father in full, whether or not there was enough collateral, and he finally got the right answer because it was just foolish. But this is what we've had to deal with.
What part of that being?
Sean, I think the part that he is having a difficult time understanding is how he, would maybe for the first time have to rule against Letitia James, who, is clearly in his pocket in some way, shape, or form. It's disgusting. We had a judge who ruled against my father again in a neighborhood of $500 million when our banks testified in front of the court that we were the greatest lenders that they've ever had, that we never breached a covenant, that we never defaulted from a loan, that we paid back all our loans ahead of time, that we were an A-plus borrower, that he was the mogul, that he's the type of business that they wanted from everybody because he had, a tremendous balance sheet and everything else. And despite all of that, and despite all that testimony, and despite the fact that there are no victims, and despite the fact that my father's statement of financial condition was undervalued, not overvalued, he levied a $500+ million fine against our family because he wants to try and pull my father out of business. He wants to make sure he doesn't use that money on a campaign trail. He was told by somebody to go after Trump and attack him in every way and to make his life absolute hell. And so that's the logic, Sean. This isn't, this isn't logical. This is, how can we take down Trump? How can we hurt Trump? How can we use the legal system against Donald J. Trump? How do we benefit the Democrats in power? How do we help Joe Biden? It's all a legal, it's all an abuse of the legal system that's being done for one political party, and we're seeing the same thing on the DA side, which you're watching today as well.
Well, let me go there because, like Letitia James, Alvin Bragg ran on a platform in part to get your father the Trump organization and the Trump family, of which you are a part of. But anyway, this case is going forward. 8 years later, how is it the case started with 203 days to go before Election Day? We're now at 196 days to go before Election Day. And meanwhile, how that's not election interference, I don't know. But this is 8 years later. They couldn't find the time up to this moment to bring this case forward. And why is it that Alvin Bragg himself did not make the opening arguments today? Instead, we saw this guy, I believe his name is Michael Canagello is his name. And anyway, he's not a Bragg loyalist. Apparently, he's a Biden appointee at the Justice Department who was assigned to Bragg's office after Bragg himself decided not to prosecute Donald Trump and then changed his mind last minute. The previous DA decided not to prosecute your dad. We still don't even really know what the charges are, considering it would be a misdemeanor case to begin with in New York, and somehow they're trying to bring in federal election crimes into this, but the DOJ, that is as weaponized as it is, they passed on it as well. So it seems to me that, probably every corporation in New York City has some number of non-disclosure, not illegal. How do we get to this point?
Well, no one actually believes this case, Sean. I mean, let me put in context for everybody. This is $130,000. Alvin Bragg himself said he wanted nothing to do with the case. Shutting down the FDR Drive, they're shutting down the entire, all the streets. You really think the state of New York, which is having women getting thrown in front of subway cars, people are getting shot in Times Square, do we really believe that New York State is doing this because they want to rectify, what they think is the injustice of $130,000? Give me a break. I mean, every single time they shut down the FDR Drive, it costs them $500,000, $1 million. The police presence around the courthouse has cost them millions and millions and millions of dollars a day. This whole thing is a sham. And you're right, Alvin Bragg didn't want to bring this case, and Michael Colangelo, who's the prosecutor that you're talking about, he's gone from case to case to case. I mean, he's the bulldog that wants to take down Donald Trump, and is all for political reasons. And let me just be very clear to everybody out there. My father was in Washington, D.C. He had nothing to do with any kind of accounting, right? I mean, he had given up his position in the Trump organization. He wasn't an officer. He wasn't a director. There was no communication with him because we took ethics incredibly seriously, and we built a wall between obviously the White House and a private company. My father was not involved at all on a day-to-day basis, in the organization, or on any basis in the organization. And they're saying that he committed a books and records violation because a legal expense submitted by an attorney was booked as a legal expense, which is exactly how you would book something that's submitted by an attorney. And by the way, a side note to a general ledger, which is about 2 words long, right? It's not like you will write a paragraph in there. It was expensed as a business expense. And they're saying that, now this is 34 felony counts of which he could go to jail for the rest of his life, because while he was sitting behind a Resolute desk in Washington, D.C., a lower level accountant, booked it as a legal expense because it was submitted by a lawyer. That is the sum total of this case. But Sean, the details of the case don't matter. They want to get Donald Trump. They want him to be sitting in this courthouse. They want to smear his name. You covered it better than anybody. Don't get something to Russia. I mean, they ran with nonsense for 3 years just to smear his name. And today you'll read about, a Russia collusion in college textbooks, even though everybody knows that whole thing was a sham and it never happened, right? And it didn't matter. I mean, the truth didn't matter. You had Adam Schiff out there every single day saying that, my father colluded with Putin and all this nonsense that everybody knows is not the case now. But they wanted to smear his name. They're doing the exact same thing in New York. And they want to be in. They don't want him out there fundraising. They want to try and prop up Biden in any way possible. And they're calling have you ever noticed that it's all liberal DAs and attorney generals, in the bluest states in the country, that are going after my father? Why is no one else going after him? And why not once in his entire life before he came down the Golden Escalator did he ever get so much as a parking ticket? It's only after he...
Let me ask you about this. Miranda Devine...
I can't.
she reported, for example, that, and this is very curious, and I have every belief it will come up in the case, the star witness for the prosecution will be Michael Cohen. I believe his conviction had to do with lying to Congress. But if you go back and recall, and this has been made public, apparently the attorney-client privilege was waived by Michael Cohen, which is why this is public knowledge and why Miranda was able to write about it. But anyway, when Costello first met Cohn at the Regency Hotel, Cohn was distraught, suicidal, repeatedly said, "I'll never spend a day in jail. I don't care what the F I have to do." And Costello memorialized that in writing. Cohn kept asking what his escape hatch was. Being a lawyer, Costello said that information incriminating Trump would give him his get out of jail free card, and then at the time insisted to his lawyers that he didn't have anything on Trump. One other point, if you look at the statements and the books and the records as they were entered, a fundamental question, all of these so-called payments were in 2017. The entries that were made in the whatever, I guess, accounting books that you have. How does that constitute election interference for an election that was held in November of 2016? Can you explain that?
Yeah, he was already the president at the time. That's exactly right, and that's the insanity of this case. And Sean, I can't tell you, sitting behind the scenes, obviously running a company the way I do, I can't tell you how many of our employees have been threatened over the years by prosecutors saying, we're going to come after you unless you tell us something about Donald Trump. And if you tell us anything that, that we could use, we won't come after you. We won't go after your family. I never believed it could be America. I mean, I've seen this firsthand. I've heard it firsthand. I've seen these prosecutors go after family members, call them up, interview them, subpoena them, go after them, and literally threaten them. You need to tell us something. And if you don't tell us something, you're going to spend the next 5 years in jail because we're going to do X, Y, and Z to you, even though they did nothing wrong. And time out, again, they come out and say, listen, we've worked at a company for 20 years, 15 years, 30 years. It's a company. We have no anything that's ever been done. It's an honest company. It's a well-run company. It's perfect. They've changed the skyline of cities all over the place. But I just can't tell you how many people were shaking. Who's a total political operative. We have his daughter who's raised, reportedly, and has been all over the media and in various filings.
Oh, by the way, you need to add that the judge donated to Biden's campaign in 2020.
Operatives. That's what she does. She runs a company that has email marketing campaigns, and every single time my father gets indicted by one of these maniacs, she goes out and she fundraises using my father's name and pictures of him behind bars and all sorts of other things to go do that. It's disgusting. There's a huge conflict of interest. His daughter is literally making money, in the guise of the very same thing he's in front of her father for. And we asked for a simple recusal. The judge would not honor it. He would not do it. There's a conflict.
Which, by the way, New York City law calls for.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Your phone, darling.
Is there a pen?
Huh? Pen? We have. Do you have?
I don't know.
Yeah, this.
Maybe underneath.
Yeah.
No,
I did not check too. Okay.
maybe.
You put here first.
I need something to write on.
Huh?
I need something to write on.
Paper.